The Westbrook Country Club's mahogany panel boardroom reeked of old money and even older prejudices. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see the immaculately manicured 18th hole, where just last week, I'd watched my daughter Amy being escorted off the course by security. Mr. David Chen, Thomas Wellington II, read from my application, his voice dripping with disdain. Owner of Golden Dragon Investments, he exchanged smirks with the other board members. I maintained my pleasant smile, though my hands clenched slightly under the table. At 45, I'd built a financial empire from nothing. But to them, I was still just an outsider trying to crash their exclusive party. Your financial statements are impressive, Wellington continued, but Westbrook isn't just about money. Our members come from established families, tradition, heritage. The way he emphasized those words made their meaning clear, and I wasn't part of it. My daughter Amy is a junior golf champion, I said quietly. She dreams of playing professionally. This is the only club in the region with training facilities that cold. Perhaps you misunderstand, Elizabeth Whitman, the club's vice president, interrupted. Westbrook is a private institution. We're very selective about membership. I knew all about their selectiveness. In its 100-year history, Westbrook Country Club had never admitted a member of Asian descent. Not even when my friend Dr. James Park, a renowned heart surgeon, had applied last year. Not even when Maria Rodriguez, the state's attorney general, had been quietly discouraged from submitting an application. But times were changing, and they didn't even realize how much. We'll review your application, Wellington said with a false smile. But I wouldn't get your hopes up. Perhaps the public course across town would be more suitable. As I drove home through the wealthy enclave of Westbrook Estates, passing mansion after mansion, I thought about how none of these people knew what was really happening to their precious club, how their board's financial mismanagement had driven it to the brink of bankruptcy, how their $100 million mortgage was now in default, and most importantly, how Golden Dragon Investments had quietly purchased that mortgage 3 months ago through a series of shell companies. My phone buzzed. A text from my banker confirming that everything was in place. Tomorrow, the foreclosure notice would be served. But that was just the beginning of what I had planned. At home, I found Amy practicing her swing in our backyard. At 16, she was already better than most adult players, with dreams of going pro. Dreams that places like Westbrook kept trying to crush. How did it go? She asked, though her expression suggested she already knew. About as expected, I replied, watching her perfect form as she drove another ball into the practice net. But don't worry. Things are about to change. Dad, you don't have to fight this battle for me. I can practice somewhere else. I walked over and hugged her. This isn't just about golf, sweetheart. Sometimes you have to stand up to people who think they can exclude others just because of how they look or where they came from. Like what happened to Mom? My heart tightened. Helen had faced similar prejudices in her corporate law career, fighting twice as hard to be taken seriously. We'd lost her to cancer 2 years ago, but her spirit of perseverance lived on in our daughter. Exactly, I said. Mom taught us that the best revenge isn't getting angry. It's succeeding so brilliantly they can't ignore you. That evening, I reviewed the documents my team had prepared. Westbrook's financial troubles weren't public knowledge yet, but the signs were there if he knew where to look. Years of declining membership, expensive renovations, and poor investment decisions had left them vulnerable. When their mortgage went up for sale, I'd seen an opportunity not just for revenge, but for real change. The purchase had been complex, requiring multiple corporations and careful timing to avoid alerting the board. But now everything was in place. My phone rang, James Park calling. Is it happening? He asked without preamble. Tomorrow morning, you still in? Absolutely. Maria too. We've got the investors lined up, all the people they've rejected or discouraged over the years. This is going to be epic. I smiled, thinking about the look on Wellington's face when he realized what was happening. But this wasn't just about humiliating them. It was about creating something better from the ashes of their exclusivity. The next morning, I dressed carefully in my best suit. The foreclosure notice would be served at 9 a.m. during the board's monthly breakfast meeting. By noon, the news would be all over the financial papers. By end of day, their prestigious membership would be in panic mode. But first, I had a stop to make. The public golf course across town, the one Wellington had so condescendingly recommended, was already busy despite the early hour. Young kids from all backgrounds practiced under the watchful eye of Joe Martinez, a former pro who made it his mission to teach golf to anyone who wanted to learn. "Mr. Chen," he called out, waving me over. A group of teenagers, including several who'd been rejected by Westbrook's youth program, paused their practice to say hello. "How's the scholarship program going, Joe?" He grinned. "Making miracles happen, one swing at a time. But we're running out of space. Sure wish these kids had access to better facilities." "Funny you should mention that," I said, handing him an envelope. "How would you like to run the most exclusive youth golf academy in the state?" His eyes widened as he read the proposal. Are you serious?" "Very, but keep it quiet until tomorrow." Things are about to get interesting at Westbrook. As I drove toward the country club, I thought about Helen, about Amy, about all the people who'd been told they didn't belong. By sunset, Westbrook's old guard would learn that their time of exclusivity was over. My phone buzzed with a message from my lawyer. Foreclosure notice being served now. Board members' faces are priceless. Standing by for phase 2. I parked across from the clubhouse, watching through tinted windows as chaos erupted inside. Wellington stormed out, face red, shouting into his phone. Other board members followed, looking shell-shocked. None of them noticed my car, just like they'd never noticed how their prejudices had sown the seeds of their own downfall. But they were about to learn a valuable lesson about judging people by appearances. I smiled, thinking of the documents in my briefcase. The plans for transforming Westbrook into something revolutionary. The old guard's reign was ending, and they didn't even know it yet. "Ready to go home, sir?" my driver asked. "Not yet," I replied, watching another board member rush to his car. "The show's just getting started." The next 24 hours at Westbrook Country Club unfolded like a perfectly played round of golf. Each move precisely calculated, each reaction exactly as anticipated. By noon, the story had hit the financial press. Exclusive Westbrook Country Club faces foreclosure. The club's phones were ringing off the hook as panicked members demanded answers. The board called an emergency meeting for 3 p.m. I watched it all from my office downtown, receiving regular updates from my team strategically placed around the club. Wellington had already called 3 different banks trying to secure emergency financing. All had declined, quietly informed months ago about the club's precarious financial situation. At 2:45 p.m., I walked into the clubhouse. The usual crowd of retired members playing cards or sipping cocktails was replaced by anxious faces and hurried conversations. Nobody tried to stop me in the chaos. They'd forgotten I wasn't a member. The boardroom was packed. Wellington sat at the head of the table, his usual smug expression replaced by barely controlled panic. "Mr. Chen," he said when he spotted me, "this is a private meeting for members only." "Actually," I interrupted smoothly, "as the holder of your mortgage, I have every right to be here." The room went silent. "You?" Elizabeth Whitman gasped. "Golden Dragon Investments bought our mortgage 3 months ago." I took a seat at the table, opening my briefcase. "Right after you rejected Dr. Park's membership application. Though technically, it was Phoenix Capital that bought it, one of my subsidiaries." Wellington's face turned an interesting shade of purple. "This is some kind of revenge scheme." "Not revenge, Mr. Wellington. Business." I laid out a document on the table. "Your club is in default. You have 2 options. First, you can try to raise $100 million in the next 48 hours to pay off the mortgage. Or," someone asked, "or you can accept my restructuring proposal." I passed out copies of a detailed plan. As they read, their expressions ranged from shock to outrage to, from a few younger board members, cautious interest. "This is outrageous." Wellington exploded. "You want to turn Westbrook into some kind of public facility?" "Not public," I corrected. "A new kind of private club. One that bases membership on merit, not ancestry. One that includes a world-class youth golf academy open to talented players regardless of background. One that actually makes money instead of hemorrhaging it through mismanagement." I clicked a remote, and the boardroom screens lit up with financial projections. "Your current model is unsustainable. Membership has dropped 40% in 10 years. Young families don't want to join a club known for exclusivity and discrimination. But our market research shows huge demand for what we're proposing." "And who exactly is we?" Elizabeth demanded. Right on cue, the boardroom door opened. James Park walked in, followed by Maria Rodriguez and Joe Martinez. Behind them came other successful professionals, doctors, executives, athletes, all previously rejected by Westbrook. Meet your new investment group, I said. We've already secured commitments for $200 million in capital improvements. The Youth Academy will be run by Joe Martinez, whose public course program has produced 3 state champions. Dr. Park will chair the new membership committee. And Maria, as you know, brings valuable legal expertise. You can't do this, Wellington sputtered. The members will never allow. The members? Maria stepped forward. You mean the ones who've been calling my office all day, who've seen their equity shares become worthless under your leadership. Those members? James added. We've already heard from over 60 current members supporting the restructuring. They understand that change is necessary for survival. I stood up, facing the board. You have 48 hours to make your decision. Try to find the money to pay off the mortgage or accept our proposal. Either way, the old Westbrook dies today. The next 2 days were intense. Wellington and his allies tried desperately to raise the funds, but their banking relationships had dried up. Other clubs declined to help, seeing an opportunity to poach Westbrook's most prestigious members. Meanwhile, our investor group met with key members, sharing our vision for the new Westbrook. The response was better than we'd hoped. Younger members especially welcomed the change, tired of explaining their club's exclusionary policies to business associates. At 5 p.m. on the second day, Wellington called to concede. The restructuring would proceed. The transformation of Westbrook began immediately. The physical changes were the easy part, upgrading facilities, modernizing the clubhouse, building the new youth academy. The cultural changes were harder, but even more important. We instituted a blind membership application process, removing names and demographics from initial reviews. Candidates were evaluated on their potential contributions to the club community, not just financial, but in terms of diversity of experience and commitment to mentoring others. The Youth Academy became our crown jewel. Under Joe's leadership, it attracted talented young players from all backgrounds. Amy was one of the first instructors, teaching younger kids while pursuing her own pro career. 6 months after the takeover, we hosted a special tournament. Players included rising stars from the academy, longtime members, and notable professionals. The local media covered it extensively, praising Westbrook's transformation from an exclusive enclave to a model of modern club management. Wellington showed up, perhaps hoping to see signs of decline. Instead, he found the clubhouse buzzing with energy, the course in perfect condition, and the membership waitlist longer than ever. Quite a change, I said, encountering him on the terrace. He stared out at the 18th hole, where a mixed group of players, young and old from various backgrounds, were finishing their round. I still think you did this for revenge, he said finally. No, Thomas. I did it because my daughter deserved better, because everyone's children deserve better. The world is changing. Private clubs can either change with it or die clutching their outdated traditions. 1 year after the takeover, we held a special ceremony. The old plaques listing past club presidents, all white, all male, were respectfully moved to the club museum. In their place went a new mission statement: Westbrook Country Club celebrates excellence in golf and character, welcoming all who share our values of sportsmanship, mentorship, and community. Our traditions are honored by creating new ones. That evening, I found Amy practicing on the same 18th hole where she'd once been escorted away by security. Now she wore the club's instructor badge, helping a young girl perfect her swing. Mom would be proud, she said as I approached, not just of the changes, but of how you made them happen. I watched the sunset paint the course in golden light, thinking of Helen. She'd always said that true change doesn't come from tearing things down, but from building something better. Looking around at the transformed Westbrook, at the diverse faces, at the mutual respect, at the sense of genuine community, I knew we'd done exactly that. The next morning, I had breakfast in the clubhouse with James, Maria, and Joe. We were reviewing applications for the Youth Academy Scholarship Program when a familiar face appeared. Mr. Chen, Wellington said stiffly. I wondered if you had a moment. We stepped aside. He looked uncomfortable but determined. My granddaughter, he began. She's 12, loves golf. The private instructor I hired says she has real potential. I was wondering, would she be eligible for the Youth Academy? I smiled, thinking of how much had changed in 1 year. The Academy evaluates all applicants equally, Mr. Wellington. If she has the talent and dedication, she'll be welcomed, just like everyone else. He nodded slowly, understanding the lesson we taught without ever saying it directly. True excellence knows no boundaries. As I watched him leave, I remembered something Helen used to say. The best revenge isn't about destroying what exists, but about creating something so much better that the old way becomes irrelevant. Westbrook had become that something better. The old guard's exclusive club was gone, replaced by a thriving community that proved inclusion and excellence could coexist. We hadn't just changed a golf club, we changed minds. And somewhere, I knew Helen was smiling.